This morning, as we continue to in the service of worship and praise, and I want to share with you from that 40th chapter of Isaiah that we read on the subject of the power of patience. I know this interim time, this in-between time, may seem like also a waiting time, and that's where we need to have a sense of patience. So I want to talk with you this morning on the power of patience, because that scripture says, "They that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength." And so I want to talk to you about the power of patience. Won't you please pray with me? God of all truth, let that word move among us like a rough and cleansing wind. Let that word move among the words to be spoken and bear the mark of thy truth. Oh God, open up our hearts and our minds to thy spirit, that we may be one with your word. Oh, gracious God, now hear our prayer. For we ask it in the name of Jesus, the living Christ, we pray. Let all the Lord say, Amen.
Amen.
The power of patience. You know, in this world of rush and I wanted it yesterday, patience has become almost a thing of the past. It seems as if people are no longer patient. They no longer have the fortitude or even the endurance to wait for something. No matter how good it may be, our youth are being taught at a very young age that waiting is something that's not good. They're being taught that what they want should come to them now. So what do when the answer, the help that you seek, does not come immediately? You see, sometimes we have to wait. Sometimes we have to wait on God. Sometimes we pray, but no answer comes right away. We fast, but our condition remains the same. We read our Bibles, but nothing happens. We do everything we know to do, and it still doesn't seem to get done. We just have to wait on God. I don't know about you, but I don't like to wait. I don't like to put up with the daily hassle of waiting. But sometimes it seems like we're always waiting. We're always waiting on something. You're either waiting in traffic, waiting on your friend or your spouse to get ready, waiting for food to be served, waiting for the phone to ring, waiting on that job, waiting in line at the automatic teller just to have clothes when it's finally your turn. We seem to always be waiting on something, and we don't like to wait. We see waiting as an inconvenience because we have become addicted to the drug of instant gratification, and we are not eager to give it up. We shop online on the internet in order to save time in line. We rush and take shortcuts in order to get to our destination faster. We charge our clothes and rent our appliances, finance our cars, mortgage our homes so that we can enjoy them today and not tomorrow. We don't like to wait. We want instant breakfast and instant life. Anything easy, that's what we like. Fast food places and stores with no lines. Anything easy will do just fine. And we even want to become instant Christians, change overnight, as long as it's easy and convenient. We pray, Lord, help me to grow without having to go to Bible study. And I even confess that my prayer has been, Lord, please give me some patience. And I mean I want it right now. You see, we don't like to wait. But Isaiah the prophet tells us in this 40th chapter that it's all right to wait sometimes. Because you see, prayers delayed are not prayers derailed or denied. So go ahead and wait on God. The scripture says, for they that wait upon the Lord. You see, here in Isaiah, this prophet is writing to the people of Israel when they are at a very dark and difficult time in the life of the nation. This once strong and proud people, the children of Israel, are now in slavery and in captivity in Babylon. Their holy city of Jerusalem is in ruins. The buildings in their hometown were destroyed. The temple was burned, and the people were devastated. It was a dark and difficult moment in the life of the children of Israel. And the people started to ask, how could God allow this to happen? Why would God allow this to happen? we his chosen people? Why do the innocent have to suffer along with the guilty? Does God even care? Has God forgotten us? Is God even able to deliver us? They were almost ready to give up on God. But Isaiah the prophet comes on the scene, and he comes to this 40th chapter. And this 40th chapter of Isaiah is one of the greatest chapters in all of the Bible. This 40th chapter of Isaiah was the one of the chapters that inspired Hymnal as he wrote his great work, the Messiah. And according to Martin Luther, the great German reformer, this was the chapter that gave him the strength when he came before the ecclesiastical court that tried to get him to recant and turn from the truths that he stood on. But inspired and strengthened by this 40th chapter of Isaiah, Martin Luther declared, "Here I stand, I can do no other." You see, the words in this chapter even gave the children of Israel the strength to go on. So what's so great about this chapter? Well, in the 40th chapter, Isaiah paints for us a portrait of God. We see what God is really like in this 40th chapter of Isaiah. If you think that God has forgotten you, that he doesn't care, that God is not there, Isaiah's 40th chapter is a good place to go to be reminded that God is still in control. If you go to this 40th chapter and you look at that 5th verse, I think you begin to get a glimpse of the glory of God. That 5th verse says, "Then the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all of the people shall see it together, for the mouth of the Lord has spoken." You see, we see the glimpse of the glory of God. But not only the glory of God, we also see the gentleness of God when we get to verse 11. It says, "The Lord cares for his nation. Just as a shepherd cares for their flocks, he carries the lambs in his arms while gently leading them to the mother's sheep." An image of the gentleness of God. But not only in this 40th chapter do we see the gentleness and we see his glory, but we also see the greatness of God. By the time we get to verse 12, it says, "Do any of you measure the ocean by yourself or stretch out the sky with your hands? Do you put the soil of the earth in a bucket and weigh the hills and mountains on balanced scales?" It says God has done all this. That's the greatness of God. But not only is there the greatness of God and the gentleness of God and the glory of God, by the time we get to verse 28, we see the grace of God. And that's where I want to focus this morning. Because like the Hebrew children of old, we sometimes feel like giving up. Like maybe God doesn't care. Maybe God doesn't know. Or maybe God is not able. But Isaiah comes back at us and says, "Have you not known? Have you not heard? The Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. He will not faint or grow weary. His understanding is unsearchable. He gives power to the faint and strengthens the powerless. Even the youth will faint and be weary, and the young will fall utterly exhausted." You see, the very best of physical strength, the very best of natural strength, the very best of all of our efforts sometimes fail, will sometimes not be enough. I don't care how determined, disciplined, and dedicated you are, sometimes you will fail. I don't care how focused you are, there will be a time when you fail, faint, and fall. You may think your record is unblemished right now. You're young and you're healthy and you're strong, but you just keep on living. Eventually, you're going to fail, and you're going to faint, and you're going to fall. But when you fail, know that your failure need not be final. When you fall, pick yourself up and dust yourself off and get up and keep on trying again. When you faint, know that God's grace is sufficient. Yes, the scripture tells us even the youths shall faint, and the young shall utterly fall. But Isaiah goes on to say, "But they that wait upon the Lord." Yeah, I know you don't like to wait, but it's all right to wait on God. Because the scripture tells us, "For they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength." And this word "renew" in scripture, literally, when we translate it from the Hebrew, means exchange. It doesn't mean that God will just add to your strength, but God exchanges your strength. You see, the Christian life is not simply a changed life. It's an exchanged life. It's not just that God changes me from what I was to something better. Listen, it's even better than that. God exchanges life with me. God takes my sin and I take His strength. God takes my guilt and I take His grace. God takes my pain and I take His power. God takes my sorrow and I take His joy. You see, it's an exchange. And so I can say, like the Apostle Paul, it's not I who lives, but Christ who lives in me, and the life I live in the flesh I live in faith, and the Son of God who loved me and gave Himself for me. You see, it's an exchanged life. They that wait upon the Lord shall exchange their strength. And it's literally the idea of changing clothes. You see, we can dress up in the power of God, just take on God's glory and gentleness and greatness and grace like a garment, and take off our human weakness that sometimes we think is our own strength. God says when we think that we are strong, we're really weak. But when we are weak, that's when we can become strong. That is when we cease to depend upon this so-called strength of ours and depend upon God's great strength. It is in that moment that we become strong. But you see, this kind of strength is reserved for those people who do what? Who wait. You see, we can't just read this verse like some pretty sounding platitude. They that wait upon the Lord, oh, we've got to do that. But listen, when Isaiah says wait, he's not just talking about sitting around twiddling your thumbs and doing nothing. You see, this waiting is not reactive and passive. You see, biblical waiting is proactive and dynamic. Listen, when you go to a restaurant and you sit down and a person comes to your table, what do we call that person? Sir. A waiter, right? Does that mean that that person is sitting over in the corner and just waiting? Well, it depends upon the restaurant. We sometimes think that, right? But you see, a waiter is not just spending time doing nothing. He or she is waiting upon us. And that means that person is serving us. The waiter says, may I help you? Would you like some coffee, some tea, some water? May I bring you something to eat, some dessert? May I take your dishes away? He or she is waiting upon us by serving us. The question is, are we waiting that way upon God? Or is it that God just can't get our attention? Have you ever had a waiter that you couldn't get their attention? You wanted something and it seemed as if your waiter had blinders on? That's the way it is with many of us. We've got blinders on and God can't even break through to get our attention. But I ask you today, do you want the strength and the power of God in your life? Then you have to learn to wait on God, to long for God, to listen for God, to look for God, and to live for God. You see, waiting on God is just not you sitting around twiddling your thumbs doing nothing. Waiting on God is actively pursuing God, seeking and surrendering and loving. The scripture says, but they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. And when you wait on the Lord, the scripture tells us that you will find yourself to be able to mount up with wings as eagles. In other words, you will have soaring strength in times of adversity. You see, an eagle has learned that the storm is not his enemy. An eagle has learned that the turbulent air and the storm is that which will help him and give him the greatest ride of his life. So you see, when the eagle sees the storm, when he sees the storm coming, he's not afraid like the little sparrow. Thank God that God's eye is on the sparrow. But what bothers the sparrow, the robin, and the dove does not bother the eagle. As a matter of fact, the storm to the eagle is what he looks for, because he learns how to ride the storm. He glides on the storm. He soars on the storm. The storm that causes so much damage and despair to others does not disturb the eagle, because the eagle has soaring power. The eagle does not just flap his or her wings, but he just glides on the wind currents. You know, normally the eagle flies about 40 miles an hour, but when he gets on one of those updrafts, the eagle can fly 70, 80, 90, even 100 miles an hour just soaring. Well, you may be in that storm right now, but if you just wait upon the Lord, wait upon God, God will give you the strength and the serenity of the eagle. Others will look at you and wonder, how can you be so calm in the midst of this storm? but it's because you have soaring power. They that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. And then the scripture goes on to say that they will run and not be weary. In other words, God will not only give you soaring strength in times of storms, but God will give you surging strength in times of opportunity. Listen, there are times when you need to run because opportunities demand it. And so there comes a time when you must run maybe to catch that bus or to run to catch that plane or to win that race. There comes a time when there's an opportunity that needs to be caught and you need that certain burst of energy to surge ahead. And so not only does God give you soaring power according to Isaiah, but God will give you surging power to run and not be weary. See, not only is God interested in your elevation, but God is also interested in your acceleration. You see, God wants to help you run and not get weary. But not only that, not only must we fly like an eagle, not only must we run and surge ahead like an athlete, but we also must learn, the scripture tells us, to walk. Now you may say, that may be a little anticlimactic. Anybody can do that. Anybody can walk. Oh, really? The scripture says, they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. That's soaring strength. They shall run and not be weary. That's surging strength. They shall walk and not faint. That's sustaining strength. In other words, day after day after day after day to sustain, to keep on, keeping on to. You see, walking and not fainting. You say that's the easiest? No, that's the hardest. Yeah, it's a thrill to soar like an eagle. How wonderful it is to run and surge and seize the prize. But you know, most of our lives are made up of the everyday mundane, the dreary, the drudgery, the day after day after day. And let me tell you, that's where most of us fail, is in the day by day living, in the little things, not the big things. It's the day by day living, day after day after day after day. You know, I know a lot of hot shots that have a great testimony. They go up like a rocket, but they come down like a rock. You may know some people like that. However, the real test of our faith is not how high we can jump when we feel the Spirit, but how straight we walk when our feet hit the ground. It's living for God day after day after day after day. You see, it's walking and not fainting. It's rolling out of bed and fixing breakfast and changing diapers and getting the kids off to school. It's fixing the lawnmowers, quiet time with God in the midst of the busy day. It's being faithful and honest. It's going to work. It's fighting traffic. It's doing the everyday things on the good days, on the bad days, on the happy days, on the sad days, on the easy days, on the hard days. It's living for God day after day after day. It's walking and not fainting. You see, this is not a descending order. It really is an ascending order. You see, anybody can soar and surge for a moment. But what we need is sustaining strength. For you see, the race is not given to the swift, but to the one who endures to the end, day after day after day after day. They that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. When you wait on the Lord, you will have soaring strength. You will have surging strength, and you will have sustaining strength. So if you have a hard way to go, walk it by faith. If you have a mean problem, work with it until you solve it. If you have a mountain, climb it. If you have a battle, fight it. If you have a handicap, rise above it. If you have a temptation, conquer it. If you have a challenge, face it. If you have a cross, bear it. For the power of God is really on your side. The challenge for us is not to give up and start worrying, but to be patient. For patience is waiting without worry. As a church, your challenge is to keep up the good work, to keep on growing in your faith, to keep on growing in your giving, in your living, and in your loving during this interim time. You see, our challenge is to keep listening to God's call so that we can faithfully carry out God's ministry through our participation and our support of Christ's church and its mission into the world. You know, there's a song that's part of the African American tradition that says, we've come this far by faith, leaning on the Lord, trusting in His holy word, and He has never failed us yet. Then the song goes on to say, oh, 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 I can't turn around. We have come this far by faith. You see, they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount on wings as eagles, as soar in strength. They shall run and not be weary, that's surge in strength. And they shall walk and not faint, that's sustaining strength. That's my prayer for you during this interim time, Franklin Christian Church. Let us pray. Oh, gracious and glorious God, we give you thanks. We thank you for this opportunity to hear your word, to be transformed by your word, to learn how to wait on you, to our strength to be renewed, and for us to have that soaring strength and that surging strength and even sustaining strength to walk this journey day by day. God, give us that kind of power. Give us that kind of strength that comes only from waiting upon you. It's in your name.